Well, why don't we get started, Alexandra, while we wait for the others to join us?
Sure.
So there were two interviews that Elon just did yesterday and just now, about an hour ago. So the first one was he was actually interviewed at the XAI Hackathon. I think it was yesterday. And we'll start off with that one. And then he was also interviewed with Katie Miller just now, an hour-long interview. And he talked a little bit about SpaceX and AI, but he also shared a lot of more information about what kind of person he is. I think that's kind of the angle that Katie took. So, Alexander, let's start off with the interview yesterday with XAI. You saw that there was a Alan Naliath who was at the XAI Hackathon. He was able to ask Elon a question, and he asked them, right, is there any technical hurdles left for unsupervised FSD? And he said no. Basically, Elon replied saying that unsupervised FSD is solved, and that he expects that within 3 weeks that's when they'll remove that. There won't be anybody in the cars in the Austin Robotaxis. So that sounded pretty good. What did you hear from that interview?
Yeah, and I'm glad you are addressing that interview first, because I think for us hardcore fans, that was much more eventful than the Katie Miller interview, which had its merits. I always think Elon is really good in letting the interviewer take the mood and ask the type of questions they want. And Katie obviously came from a much more humanistic approach rather than technology approach. But it is clear we heard a lot of stuff we already heard. It's good because that audience, far more consequential for us Tesla investors, was the interview at the hackathon. And I thought that was a very intelligent question and well phrased, and Elon picked it up very well. And essentially it said, yes, full self-drive is solved, which I love to hear, because I'm getting always heat when I say that. It obviously needs fine-tuning and polishing, and it will for a long time.
Many of us are a little bit, what's the word, PTSD, like we don't want to say it because it's been 4 or 5 years that we've been saying it's improving, but here's Elon saying it is solved.
Exactly. And then I found it very interesting, the 3 weeks comment, because how many times did we hear 2 weeks? And we all know 2 weeks is not 2 weeks. 2 weeks can be anything from 2 hours to 2 years. But 3 weeks is a very precise statement. And then I thought, okay, 3 weeks is 21 days. So that brings us to the year end. And then I started speculating. And so none of what follows has any grounds other than my brain going berserk, which is, there may be a good reason to start at the beginning of the new year. It may be for insurance contracts. It may be for the safety monitors. Oh, first I should say, so he said that in Austin in 3 weeks, there will not be anybody sitting in those robotaxis anymore. Then, so no safety monitor or whatever you want to call it, safety driver or whatever. There will be nobody. It will just be the passenger, the paying passenger. And so why 3 weeks? And then I was thinking, okay, so that's probably January 1st or January 2nd. And that could be for insurance reasons, new insurance contracts starting beginning 2026, or it could be that the safety monitors have their contracts with, their employment contracts with Elon expiring at the end of the year, or it could be some permit hurdle that was starting on January 2026. It just sounds so linked to an external event. And then at the same time, him being so precise of saying 3 weeks, right? He could have said 2 weeks, and nobody in 2 weeks would have fallen off the chair, because we all know that that 2 weeks is not always 2 weeks. So it is what it is. I do believe this is very precise, and there is an external reason for it to be beginning of January. I could be, of course, wrong, and so that is very promising. And I think will be a major event. We've been waiting for that.
Yeah, I'm not thinking that there's anything because of January versus December. I think it really is just 3 weeks. Like, he's expecting it to happen before the end of the year.
Okay, shall we bet? Come on, let's bet. Come on,
how do you bet?
You're losing them all the time.
No, you were just giving some excuses of why you think he might have purposely have to choose something after January. I'm just saying, I'm not sure. I think that he's just saying, hopefully it'll be done 3 weeks. Somebody said, which makes even more sense, that he's going to give the team a deadline. Look, let's get it done this year. by the end of this year. But regardless, this is my point, right? It doesn't almost matter to me. I mean, it'd be nice if he get it, one more thing that says every time he says something, it's actually true. But more matters more is his evaluation that this FSD is solved. That confidence that, hey, it's solved. We are just doing validation, he said, right? And that makes all the sense. So you don't need to rush it by a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. As long as he's on path to solve. And you and I are having the car drive us every day, and we know it's solved. We know it's solved already. It's just nice to finally have them come out and really, really say so. That's
Have you
what matters.
tried it? Have you tried texting or keeping your phone longer in your hands?
I've not tested it. Like, I don't feel the need that I need to do that. But I certainly, what I do a lot, and it always, would always warn me, is that I'm always looking at the screen. I'm always playing with the screen. I'm, like, oh, where do I want to go next? Or I'm looking at the music or something like that. And then it would nag me. It doesn't do that anymore. So even though I'm not using my phone to actually text, I'm actually looking away more and more. Yeah.
Well, I did, because I obviously only for science, right? I would never do that. Bullshit.
Yeah.
So I did. I did on the highway, absolutely no problem. I think I was on a trip that took in total 20 minutes, out of which at least 18 were on the highway. So just going on the highway, staying on the highway, and then just getting off. And all the time on the highway, I had my phone in my hand. I wasn't always texting, but I didn't want to put it down to see until when it would carry. There wasn't a lot of traffic. It's straight highway, the 101 around Santa Barbara going to Goleta. So it was not, something complicated, but it let me have the phone in the hand all the time.
How long? 18 minutes? Really?
18 miles, yeah. 18 minutes, sorry, yeah.
18 minutes of driving on the highway. And
with the phone in the hand. I mean, I was not all the time texting. Sometimes I was texting, but I had the phone in the hand. I was not all the time looking at the phone, because actually, I like to look at the road when I'm driving it. I'm not in a state yet where I completely do something else. I'm still, sort of checking on the car, but relaxed. And I agree with you. It was oversensitive when you change the music, or when you added a destination or whatever. It, after a couple of seconds, it would tell you, be more attentive. That's gone. That's now completely gone. So it was super permissive here.
And yesterday I was actually in the rain here in Seattle, raining like crazy, and it was fine. It was still letting me, look away at my screen. But yeah, no, I'm pretty attentive regardless. Maybe I will test it for science purpose, as you say. But so his comment yesterday at that XAI hackathon, right? It is solved, and that he's just doing it for validation, and that we expect to have those people off. I mean, he said that before. And then he started talking about that even with AI4, which is the one we have in our cars, that it will be, he said, maybe even up to 10 times safer than a human. That's another great, just another thing. I mean, he might have said it before, but it's just validation again that is still the way they see it. The AI that we have in our cars, the GPUs we have in our cars, can get to 10 times safer than the human. And then he started talking about the next versions are going to be like even bigger and bigger and better. So that to me was a very, very important, just validation that that's the case, that we're still on track. And then I remind people that Cyber Mike, our friend, was actually met with Ashok Swami at the shareholder meeting, and Ashok told him that cars with AI3 will be able to be used for Robotaxi.
Which is great.
That is the validation.
Really great. And I feel for all those hardware 3 people, and I have, when they come and say, oh, help us complain or whatever, I don't have neither the power to get it quicker done, nor any other, means of intervening, but I can reassure everybody it's crazy to be that much behind it. I'm already going mad if I'm getting the updates 2 or 3 days later than the first ones who get it. So I can only imagine the frustration people have when they're still on hardware 3. Now, 2 solutions. Either you want to put the money on the table and get a hardware 4 car, which I think is, really worth it. And at the moment, you still find a lot of buyers for hardware 3, which may not be true forever. Or you just trust what they did say, and they said clearly that, once FSD is solved, and we heard it today, they will concentrate on solutions for hardware 3. So I do believe those are around the corner. The timeline they had mentioned at the shareholder meeting was end of Q2, beginning of Q3. Recall it right? And I mean, that's still far to go. That's still 6 months to go. I understand that, I fully understand the frustration, because these are early committers, sometimes at full price initially to get it in. Some of them were able to get them at reduced prices. Some of them, I mean, there were people paying up to $12,000 for FSD and having now a hardware 3 car. So I feel for them. There's no doubt about it. And if the sooner this comes, the better for everybody.
Alexandra, I didn't ask you yet. What's your take on why did Tesla launch the Robotaxi app? Sorry, Alexandra, but to just iPhone users, but in all the countries, like 11 countries, Japan, Thailand, Hong Kong, South Korea, Australia, Taiwan, Macau, New Zealand, of course, Mexico, US, and Canada. Why would they launch a Tesla Robotaxi app? Is this a nothing burger?
Well, thank you for rubbing it in. I appreciate
Get an iPhone. Get a second phone.
Everybody knows I'm on Android, and I really feel, so maybe that is why I'm so compassionate about the hardware 3 people, because the Android users feel the same. So, and I still don't get it. I mean, I hear all these people saying, yeah, just get an iPhone. I'm not getting an iPhone. Okay, this is, right. Sort of one of those stupid religious things I have. So anyway,
I remember your reason. It was silly, but we'll have that conversation some other day. Okay.
You won't convince me. My 5 kids can't. I mean, I paid, I don't know for how many tens of thousands of dollars for Apple phones and computers and whatever for my kids, and I still wouldn't buy it for myself. And they all think I'm crazy. Right. So that is just the way it is. I may as well, die on that wrong hill. Mm-hmm. But it is great that it expands internationally, because I do believe, first of all, it's great that people have the app on their phone. It's just, it's one of those things, will you put it on page 1? Will you put it on page 2? We'll get used to it. That's that. And then the growth of Robotaxi, the whole network, will be international as soon as regulators approve it. So this puts also pressure. I have the feeling that Elon is doing a lot of things, including that texting that, I remember last Thursday, I was like, oh my gosh, I wish he wouldn't have stated it so obvious. It's one thing that we know among us that we can try to text, but, him saying it just makes it very official. And I felt, that wasn't probably necessary. But on the other hand, it does create a certain pressure on regulators to have to say something, and either have to say no or have to say, okay, we're going a step further in that direction. We're going a step further. And I think that is one of the reasons why he is, they're going worldwide. Is it consequential today? No, because nobody outside of Austin and the Bay Area can call any Robotaxi. But it shows that once the network is open, or once Robotaxis are deployed in different cities, in different states, in different countries, well, the app will be on the phones. I haven't checked actually how many were downloaded, but I'm sure it's a lot. I think a lot of people who are not even coming to Austin or not even coming to the Bay Area are still downloading the app and putting it on their phone.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what to take of that, because it's just an app, right? So does it really matter? I mean, you shouldn't do that if you're not going to offer the service for years. But I think you're right that it's like they have a global strategy. Whichever country wants to move next, they can move. It works in your country. We've got FSD there now, and it's working. So let's go ahead and download the Robotaxi app, and maybe you want to do a test or something like that, and we're ready to go.
Yeah, I think that's it. One thing I just want to throw in, we just got SEC Form 4 filing. So I was like, my heart was beating. I was like, oh my God, because this is sort of the last little window that if Elon would have elected that tax window for his options, remember everything that, what's his name?
Bradford Ferguson
and Matt were discussing for a couple of days. My stance was, I think this is unlikely. Would you start doing that? You don't even know whether you'll get those options. I mean, it felt like either overconfident that he will get all those, and then very early, yet no doubt it would be the cheapest solution. But I just felt it was very, very early to take action that costs money like now. But anyway, there was always in the back of my head, well, maybe he's doing it. Who knows? There are consequences, financial consequences that are bitter to swallow in any case. The day Elon will have to sell all these shares because of option expiry, it is just going to be what it's going to be. This is going to be bloody no matter when it happens, because Wall Street will just not. And I mean, you do remember that they put into the proxy that the board wants oversight of how it's done. So yes. The way he has done it in past years, just throw it out there and do it. They're not going to let him do that again. So I was sort of reassured that they have the hand on it. But anyway, it was today that this window closes, and so we got a SEC Form 4, and I was like, is that it? But it's not. It was actually Vaibhav who sold. I mean, 3 times.
Even yesterday. So same thing yesterday.
That's a part of his equity plan. So nothing to see here.
There was a possibility that Elon was going to be able to sell his shares now so that he can pay for a potential tax in the future if he hits his targets. It doesn't look like he's done that. Okay, and I think if he sells it in the future, it's not going to be a hit at all. Imagine how lucrative the stock price will be in order for him to have done that.
Because then it is because he has really reached those milestones. Now it would be in anticipation, right? Which is
a billion here, a billion there. Who cares to us?
Yeah. The other thing that I think will come, and we really haven't discussed yet, because I brought out that analysis on Friday after the cyber bulls were recorded last week, is the Tonetta decision. Yeah. So if you give me a couple of seconds, I would like to talk about that. So I was going through all the Delaware Supreme Court decisions over the last couple of months to see how many weeks, short months after the oral arguments, they are publishing their verdicts. And about 2/3 of Supreme Court cases that come from the Chancery Court, because they also get obviously stuff, criminal stuff, and from other courts, not only from the business court, but getting back to the Chancery Court, which is our case. 2/3 of those cases don't even have an oral argument. The attorneys just hand in their conclusions, and then they read them, and then they come to a verdict. The 1/3 that did, most of those had their hearings after us. We had our oral arguments on the 15th of October, so we're due. So I published that on Friday. Friday, there weren't any. Monday, there was one, but it wasn't the Chancery Court. This morning, they published 4, including one from the Chancery Court, and that one had its oral argument in November, so a month after us. Mm-hmm. So this is getting really hot. I really believe we're there in the next couple of days to get the Tonetta verdict. Can be one of 4 solutions. We'll see what comes up with it, but I do believe that is now due, and there is a link on my Twitter feed if you want to see where to consult to see when we get it. They publish only once a day around 9 o'clock Pacific. The last couple of days it has been. I mean, I'm not sure it's really a standard time, but I do believe there's something due in the next couple of days.
And I haven't looked recently, but isn't the betting market saying something like 67% chance that it's a positive for Tesla investors?
Yes. So 70% believe that they will cancel the Chancery Court's decision.
Yeah, what a great thing.
I am not that affirmative. I'm not, because that hardly happens that they completely overturn it. We'll see. I mean, that's what I hope for, but 70% seems really too confident in my view, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update. I'm glad that we might be looking forward to that. One last question before we move. We were supposed to talk about the Katie Miller podcast. We'll get there. Did you see the President Trump's announcement of the One Rule Book? They're going to set up an executive order sometime this week that basically says that in terms of AI, that there should just be one rule for AI across the nation, federal framework for AI, and not have to get 50 different states with 50 different approvals every time you want to do something. And AI encompasses the AI that goes in robots, and it encompasses the AI for robotaxis. So is this the beginning of a federal framework for autonomy as well? Is this good news for Tesla?
Well, if it works, it would be good news for Tesla. as long as Elon has good relationships to the White House. There's always a double sword here, right? It all works well when you are in the good books of these people. And so one of the reasons why I like federal administration of stuff and is that, you know, then it's all concentrated. You have the lawyers and the regulators all in the same configuration, and there's just not these 1,000 layers of different administrations and paperwork and whatever. So I like that. The problem is that gives that part a real superpower. And that's one of the reasons America was done the way it was done, right? Federally. Same in Germany. I lived in Germany and in France. It's two completely different systems. And you can really feel how in France everything is directed from Paris, and, you know, these bureaucrats in Paris, or in Europe, actually, coming back to European Union, in Brussels, Strasbourg, the same configuration. So you have these towers of bureaucrats that decide on one thing. So it would be great. It also would be mostly logical, because AI doesn't function with state lines, right? It's already actually an international issue. So if you, on a national issue, cut it in 50 different rules and things, it just becomes unbearably complicated to administer. And so what would that mean? That would mean that, you know, a JetGPT in Colorado is having different rules than a JetGPT in Texas or in Delaware. I mean, of course, of all places, but it's just not doable. And let me just push that to a topic that I know more about than AI, which is business law. You know, we've learned over the last 3 years how painful it is to have chosen one state, being Delaware, and being at the mercy of one chancery court chancellor. And there were 49 others, and there are obviously other countries and other legislations. So in the business court sphere, there have been lots of voices going, we should just stop this. There should be one federal business court with one set of rules for anywhere in the United States. And it makes a lot of sense, but you should see the opposition you get from lawyers and from judges, of course, but even from regulators, because, you know, all this administration around it creates so many jobs and so many opportunities and so many arbitrage possibilities and whatever. And so the same applies to AI.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, David Sachs, who's the AI star, pointed out that, you know, he called it 4 C's: child safety, communities, creators, and censorship. Those are all still would consider state, you know, desires and important requirements. But the fourth one, which I'm glad the fifth one is, he called it competitiveness. And this is the important thing, right? AI, they need to do this because you're competing against other countries in the world like China. And so this is a very good news, I think, for Tesla, because Robotaxi and robots, same thing. It's all about competitiveness against other countries. And so it's almost a given, unless, knock on wood, that if you were the US, a country, you need to create a federal framework for autonomy and a federal framework for bots and so forth. So that's good news. Okay,